G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here, back with another video on Pathfinder Kingmaker. Now this video is about all things armor. Just a little caveat to begin with, this will apply to a lot of games in the genre, including if you play Pathfinder or 3.5 D&D as a desktop role-playing game. But the same information that I'm imparting here is used in Neverwinter Nights 1 to a degree, definitely in Neverwinter Nights 2, and some of it's also relevant to Sword Coast Legends. Those are the games that I've played that the armor mechanics are basically the same. So what this is about is understanding how armor values work in the game and working out what is the best armor for your character. Okay? So first of all, if you're playing any sort of spellcaster, mage, sorcerer, or a monk, anyone who can't wear armor, then unfortunately you're out of luck. Your only options then is to max out your dexterity and use that. So if I take my armor off this character, this is my Eldritch Archer. If I take his armor off, his armor class is, he's got a magic ring as well. His armor class is 14 because his dexterity, he has a +4 to dexterity, which makes his armor class 14. Then I can add magical items to that. So this is a Braces of Armor, for example, which increases him to 15, and he's got a Ring of Protection +1, which takes him to 16. So if you're playing as just a pure spellcaster or someone who can't wear armor, those are really your only options. Find the magical items that you can and keep your dexterity as high as you can afford. Now you can't always afford to put, that many points into dexterity, but you'll have to do what you can. Then if you're not playing that, a lot of your characters will have different restrictions on them. So the Eldritch Archer and all Maguses start only able to use light armor. Rangers, for example, can use light or medium armor. Fighters can use any armor, so can most clerics. But a lot of classes are restricted as to how heavy an armor that they can use. Barbarians can't use heavy armor, they can only use light and medium. So let's go and talk to Oleg here and see the types of armor that are available. And I'll explain some differences between them. The biggest thing to be aware of in the armor... Oh, wrong way around. The biggest thing to be aware of with armor is that most sets of armor, if you max out your dexterity bonus, will give you an armor class of 18. Before any enchantments, before anything magical, you'll have an armor class of 18. So let's look at that. The simplest armor that you can get, if I can scroll up, the simplest armor that you can get is padded armor. And you can see there that its armor class, let's do the info instead. So its armor class is 1, so it's only going to increase my armor by 1, and it can take a maximum dexterity bonus of 8. So this is the armor that you would use end game if you were using a dex-based character, anyone who has lots of dexterity, because if you can get up to 8 points of dexterity, you can get a total of 9 points. So your armor class would be 19 before any other enchantments take effect. So I picked the wrong armor to explain this with first because padded armor is one of the exceptions. Let's look at leather armor. Leather armor, a base armor class of 2 and a maximum dex bonus of 6 gives you an armor class of 18. 2 and 6 is 8. Studded leather is the same. 3 for your base armor class and a maximum dex of 5. Chain shirt is 4 and 4. So using that, you can look at, if I'm using a character that has can only use light armor, what's my best armor to use? Well, if I have more than 4 points of dex bonus, then I should pick something else, but otherwise start with a chain shirt, because that's going to give you the highest base armor class, and you can put up to 4 points of dex ability into that. And it's a dex bonus too. It's not that you've got a dexterity of 18. That means you can put 18 points in. 18 has a dexterity bonus of +4, so that's the maximum, the best armor that you would work with in that case. Now, there's three, so medium armor is the same. We've got hide armor just here. Hide armor is 4 and 4, 8. Scale armor is 5 and 3, 8. And you will notice that I skipped over the breastplate, and I'll explain that in a second. The breastplate is a little bit different. It's one of those armors, like the padded armor, that you might want to take. If you can get medium armor, the better armor to take is the breastplate, because it gives you a base of 6 and a maximum of 3, giving you 19. So it's slightly better than all of the other medium armors. So if I had a character who could only use light or medium armor, such as a barbarian, for example, I would use the breastplate as the starting armor for that character. And if over time I expect their dexterity to increase, right, I would consider changing that armor, and I'll explain that in a minute. So heavy armor, then, you've got banded mail, 7 and 1, 8, chain mail, 6 and 2, 8, half plate, 8 and 0, so you can't use a dexterity bonus with that. Then you've got the third set of armor that is an exception to the 8 rule, and that is full plate. It costs you a lot. You can see the cost of it there is 1,500 gold, but it gives you a total of 10 points if you've got 1 point of dexterity bonus. You get a 9 as your base armor class, and 1 is 10. So what it turns out is, if you've got any characters who can take heavy armor, and you want the best armor that you can get, and you can afford it, go full plate, because you'll get 9 points of armor even if you don't have a maximum a dexterity bonus. So that's where to go with that. But having said all of this, in every single case, the best armor that you can get, well, not in every single case, the breastplate is the exception here, but generally the better the armor is, the heavier it is. No, the breastplate's not the exception, really. It's the same as scale mail. But the heavier the armor, so you have to be able to lug that around. Full plate is 50 pounds. That uses up a lot of your available carrying capacity. And if you had an entire party wearing plate mail, they'd probably not be able to carry much else, because you've got to be careful that you don't overload your party with too much equipment. So my recommendation, particularly if you're playing a character whose dexterity, you plan to have their dexterity increase over time. Now generally, if you're playing that sort of character, maybe a dex-based ranger, a dex-based magus, a rogue of some sort, a bard that you're going to increase dex on, any of those sorts of characters, over time, you first of all, you're probably only going to have medium armor, light armor as your only choice. But you might have medium in the case of a ranger. What I recommend is, as your dexterity increases over time, change the armor to the next lowest set, because you'll free up some encumbrance, and it'll be doing just the same amount of protection. So let's take that as an example. Let's say I'm using a chain shirt and I have a max dex bonus of +4, and I've just increased my dexterity twice and got it now to +5. Well, I can save 5 pounds of weight by ditching my chain mail shirt and going to studded leather, which has exactly the same armor class. 3 for the armor class and a maximum of 5 dexterity bonus. Now, the other thing to be aware of, I can keep using my chain shirt. It just means that my dex bonus is not being utilized to its fullest. Now, thankfully, it doesn't apply any penalties. So let's say my dex bonus was +6. I can still keep using a chain shirt, and it doesn't reduce my dex bonus for anything else that I use my dexterity for. At least I don't believe so. I thought that mechanic was in some games, and I don't believe it's in this game. And I haven't actually seen it active anywhere else. But if you're concerned about that, about maybe your reflex saves are going to be a little bit less because you've just cut off your dexterity bonus, then do that. As you increase your dexterity, drop down to the next armor level. So go to studded leather, then go to leather, and then eventually go to padded armor. And frankly, if you ever get higher than a +8 dex bonus, you're better off not wearing any armor at all. So that's just my little guide on armor in general. I haven't really touched on shields because shields don't really have anything to do with dexterity in that. So if you do want to increase your armor even further beyond what you've currently got, and you can't do anything about either increasing your dex or picking an armor that goes more, then definitely choose to use a shield, either a heavy or light shield. I don't recommend using the tower shield unless you're actually playing a tower shield specialist, of course, because the big problem with the tower shield is it actually puts a penalty on your attack. Because it is so large and unwieldy, you find it hard to attack with it. Tower shield specialist, I believe, reduces some of that. So anyway, this is my primer on Pathfinder armor. I hope it's been helpful to you. If you like this video, please give it a like, give it a comment, share it around. That all helps. And thank you very much for the responses on my other videos. Check the channel. I've got some other Pathfinder videos there talking about other builds and so forth. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.